Okay, students, you all must be knowing what this one is. This is a gas stove, and with the help of this, I'll explain to you three processes of the transfer of heat. First, the conduction, second, the convection, and the third one is radiation. So, naturally, to understand these three processes of the transmission of heat, we need to first put the gas on, correct? So, let me put the gas on. It's already on now. I'll have to save my mobile from the heat of the gas. So now when I try to keep it here, I can still feel the heat of the gas, right? And in order to show you one more thing, I will also try to keep this additional one on top of that. And on top of this, I will keep a vessel filled with water to boil. If you can see, the vessel is in direct contact with the metallic plate. The plate is in turn contact with the gas, okay? But the water inside is not at all in contact directly with the fire, fine? This is exactly what you should be knowing. So now if you want to find out what's exactly happening, if you just closely look at it, this fire down below the vessel is heating the bottom portion of the vessel. It's also in turn heating up this particular ring. I will not touch it. And it is also heating up the water. You can see those vapors coming out and small little bubbles which are on the side of the water. Now, even though the water is not directly in contact with the fire, with the gas, it is surely in contact with the bottom portion of the vessel. So if you can see very well, there are these bubbles which are coming up from the bottom of the vessel. You can see those larger bubbles coming up now. So what's happening? Heat is transferred from the bottom of the vessel to the top. And what are these air bubbles doing? These air bubbles are the water molecules which are getting heated up when they are in direct contact with the bottom of the vessel. So this is the process of what is known as convection. Okay, the first one, which is the process of conduction, and if I hold my hand over it, then you can see I can feel the warmth of the water. This is the radiation process. In a similar manner, when you stand early morning sun, let me put this gas off now. So in this now, you can very clearly see that even though the water was not directly in contact with the fire, it has got heated up, and the vessel has only its bottom portion in contact with the heat, the fire. So what has happened? The fire has heated up the bottom portion of the vessel. The vessel being metallic in nature, it has transferred heat from the bottom portion of its own to the other parts of the vessel. So the heat from the other parts of the vessel has been absorbed or been transferred to the water, and the water has started boiling. In water, what is happening? The water which is first in bottom portion of the vessel is getting heated up, it is getting lighter, it is coming up, and in turn for the heavier molecules, which are the cooler molecules, it is going down. So this process is continuing. Hotter molecules coming up and colder molecules going down. So this is the process of convection taking place. The transfer of heat from the metal, from the gas to the metal, from the metal to other parts of the metal is conduction. This is convection, and if you would have stood near the gas, then it would have or you would have felt that there is a heat transfer which is happening from the gas onto your hand. So there are three processes of the transfer of heat. One is called the conduction, second is the convection, and third one is the radiation. So when you observe the boiling of water, the heating of vessel, the warmth that we felt when we were standing very close to the gas. So which one was the conduction? Conduction was the heating of the vessel. If you would have seen, the bottom portion of the vessel was only that portion which was in contact with the fire. It got heated up first, and by the process of conduction, it transferred heat from the bottom of the vessel to the other portion. That heat was transferred in turn to the water, So the water which was in contact with the bottom of the vessel first got heated up, it got warmer, it rose up and it pushed down the colder molecules of the water from the top portion of the water into the bottom portion. So that convection process kept on taking place. There was a boiling of water. And what is radiation? The best example of radiation would be your early morning sun or sun. Whenever you stand in the sun, you can feel the warmth of the sun. The heat burns your skin. Whereas whenever a breeze blows past, then you feel the coldness of the breeze as well. So that means the medium has not got heated up. It's only between you and the sun that the transfer of heat has taken place. This is called as the radiation. So the first question that should come into your mind is, what are the three different ways of the transfer of heat? There are three different processes. The first one is called conduction, second one is called the convection, and the last one is known as the radiation. So why do we have to give three different names to these three different processes? That is the distinction. They may give you a question like distinguish between the three different modes of transfer of heat, or write 2 or 3 points the difference between conduction, convection, radiation, so on and so forth. So conduction is only for metals. You would have observed that whenever you hold a piece of metal or whatever in your hand and try to keep the other end against the fire, the portion which you are also holding will get heated up. That's the conduction. It happens only in metals. Please keep in your mind that conduction does not occur for liquids or gases or any other mode. It happens only for metals. And the very important thing for conduction is that there is no physical movement of the molecules of the metal. When the vessel was getting heated up, did you see the vessel shaking here and there? Or whenever you hold that rod in your hand, do you find that the rod is shaking or wriggling? No, it does not. That means in the process of conduction, there is no physical movement of the molecules. It is only the transfer of heat which takes place. But what is more important is the transfer of heat always takes place from the region at a higher temperature to the region at a lower or a lesser temperature. Please keep in your mind that the transfer of heat always takes place only from a region at a higher temperature to the region at a lower temperature. So let's go to the next part, which is convection. Convection happens only for liquids and gases. So convection will not happen for metals. So now what did we see while the water was boiling? You could actually see that there was a motion of the molecules happening. You could actually see the physical movement of the molecules. Because the molecules were moving from the bottom to the top and from top to the bottom, you could actually feel that there was a boiling of water taking place. So convection is the process of transfer of heat from a region at a higher temperature to the region at a lower temperature with the physical movement of the molecules. I'll repeat. Convection is defined as a process of transfer of heat from a region at a higher temperature to the region at a lower temperature with the physical movement of the molecules. Let us move on to the last portion of the transfer of heat, which is the radiation. Whenever you stand under the sun, you can feel that your skin is getting burnt. You can feel the warmth of the sun. A very common sight in winters in cold regions is you can see a group of people cornered around or surrounding a fire which is lit up. That fire will keep them warm from the atmospheric coldness, correct? But here you can see radiation. Even though there is no physical contact between the people sitting around the fire, they still feel the warmth of the fire. That is the radiation. So, and another example is of your sun rays reaching the earth. So now for radiation take place, there is transfer of heat without the intervening medium getting affected. So now the most common example which I took was that of the people sitting around the fire like a bonfire or something. In that case, you can still make out that there is coldness in the air, but because you are sitting around the fire, you are getting warmed up but the air besides is not getting heated up at all. So there is no heating of the intervening medium. So radiation is defined as the transfer of heat from a body at a higher temperature to the body at a lower temperature without the intervening medium getting affected. Without the intervening medium getting affected. Please remember, conduction, there is the same thing happening from one part of the body to the other part. Convection, the same thing happening from one part of the body to the other part. But in radiation, there are two bodies involved. One at a higher temperature, the other at a lower temperature. So without the two bodies being physically present, radiation will not occur. And the most important point is that conduction and convection, even though no second body is involved here, but the source of heat is always there for all these three. That means without a source of heat, conduction cannot occur. Without a source of heat, convection cannot occur, and without the source of heat, radiation can also not occur. So you should not confuse between the metal and the heat as two separate bodies. You should take the metal as one single body, the water as one single body. But in radiation, there are two bodies involved, like the sun and the body on which the sun rays are falling, or the fire in the middle of a camp and you surrounding and sitting it. So let us now quickly point out the differences between the three processes of transfer of heat, which is conduction, convection and radiation. And depending on that, let us quickly note down the differences. That will become one part of the question, which is distinguish between conduction, convection, radiation. The question could also be give points or differences between conduction, convection and radiation, or define conduction, define convection, or define radiation. So all these are different types of questions that you may come across in this particular topic of transfer of heat, processes of transfer of heat. Now when you look at the conduction and the convection, it is always the same body. Please be very careful about this. It is just one body, like a metallic piece or a water boiling or any hot object. It is only one piece, and the transfer of heat takes place from the same body at a higher temperature to the region at a lower temperature. That means if you consider, say, end A and end B, if the end A is at a higher temperature, it will go from end A to end B. Say in this case now, if you look at this particular rod, then this is the so-called flame or the fire which I have used as the diagram. This is the end A and this is the end B. So whenever this end A gets heated up, it transfers heat from end A towards the end B. But in other case, if this B, point B, was at a higher temperature, then the flow of heat would be from point B to point A. So this is the main thing. This is one body but having different regions of temperature. That is very important, okay? So one body having different regions of temperature, and the temperature flow or the heat flow is from the region at a higher temperature to a region at a lower temperature. But what is important in conduction is that the metal itself does not move. Be very careful. Therefore, there is no physical movement of the molecules of the metal. This is only for conduction. And whereas when the water was boiling, there you could see that the water molecules were traveling up and down, were going up and down, correct? So this is the basic difference between conduction and convection. Conduction is the process of transfer of heat in a body from the region at a higher temperature to the region at a lower temperature without the physical movement or motion of the molecules. Whereas convection is the process of transfer of heat in a body from the region at a higher temperature to the region at a lower temperature with the physical movement of the molecules of the body, or with the physical motion of the molecules of the body. Example of conduction is the heat transfer in a metallic rod, and the example of convection is the boiling of water in a vessel. And radiation is the transfer of heat from a body at a higher temperature to the body at a lower temperature without the intervening medium getting affected. I'll repeat once again. Radiation is the process of transfer of heat from the body at a higher temperature to the body at a lower temperature without the intervening medium getting affected. Now, intervening medium is what? The air. If you see, however hot the sun may be or the temperature on that particular day may be, but you can still see that the air blowing past you is always cold. That means the air is not getting heated up at all. Fine. So that means the intervening medium is not getting affected. Whereas in conduction convection, the intervening medium is also getting affected. So you got conduction, convection and radiation.